Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syafiq Aziz, and in these very special occasions, I'm going to deliver about my presentations, which talk about the role of organizations of Islamic countries in conflict resolutions between Qatar and Arab countries. Let's move to the next slide, which is the background. Okay, here I am going to talk about the conflict background. But first of all, I would like to deliver the actor on this conflict, which is Qatar and Arab Saudi countries. In Arab countries, Qatar is an Emirate Arab countries located in the Middle East and is located on a small peninsula on the Arabian Peninsula in West Asia. Qatar is also known as a small country that just into the Persian Gulf. Qatar is a part of country in the Middle East region or Sharq al-Awsat Qatari, which is the which means the native people of Qatar. The Middle East region has an area of 4.6 million square miles. In that region, there are also other countries that are included in the Middle East region, such as Afghanistan, Uni Emirat Arabs, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Libya, Oman, Turkey, Lebanon, and also Saudi Arabia. Qatar is a country with a fairly high economic income, supported by its third um, largest natural gas and oil reserve in the world. Qatar also has the largest reserve of liquefied natural gas in the world. By having this LNG reserve, Qatar becomes the largest LNG exporter in the world. Further, oil and gas revenue bring the country's average per capita income to over 100,000 US dollar, far more than the United States and also the United Kingdom. The state of Qatar adopts an open foreign policy, mostly relying on a soft power tools such as media, diplomacy, economy, humanitarian, and aid and generous donations. The country's constitutions also um, affirms that the principle of its foreign policy, such as safeguarding sovereignty and independence, respecting international treaties and conventions, consolidating international peace and security, defending public and private freedoms, and human rights. Meanwhile, in the bilateral relations, Qatar has a good relations with several neighborhood countries in the Gulf region, such as Iraq and also many other countries. Next. Qatar also have relative close relations with um, neighborhood countries such as Saudi Arabia in its history. Since in the beginning of Qatar's independence in 1971, Qatar has had diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia even longer than that. This relationship between Saudi Arabia and Qatar um, because of the same ethnicity. Historically, the imams from the country of Qatar are people who come from the same tribe as the Saudi Arabia. Diplomatic relations between one country and another can change and are bound to experience a dynamic following political developments in the region and internationally. Likewise, with the relationship between Qatar and Iran, a diplomatic relationship that has been close established, especially in the gas and economic and oil economy between the two countries, does not guarantee that the relationship between both of these countries will always run smoothly. Qatar and Iran relations deteriorated during the Iranian diplomatic crisis that occurred in early 2016, when the countries in the Gulf region cut ties with the Iran following an attack on the Saudi Arabia's diplomatic missions in Tehran, Iran. Qatar became one of the countries that condemned the attack, and Qatar also summoned is its ambassador on January 6, 2016, to cut off diplomatic relations with the Iranian state. At the same time, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Qatar issued a statement uh, of protest to Iranian embassy in Doha, saying that the attack was a violation of international charter and norms that emphasize the protections of diplomatic missions and stuff. As it's seen from its historical facts, relations between Qatar and other Gulf countries were originally have good relations. However, precisely under the leadership of Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani in 1995, relations between Qatar and also other countries began to experience turmoil. Many foreign policies contradict with the uh, Arabian countries. The heating up relations between Saudi Arabia itself and the Qatar began to surface since the Arab Spring in 2011. The next is the research questions. In these sessions, how is the organizations of Islamic countries could addressing and handling the conflict between Qatar and also the Arab countries? Okay, in order to answer these questions, I'm going to deliver the discussions. Okay, the conflict resolutions in Islam actually has been practiced since the time of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At that time, the Prophet faced several problems related to the other groups. Therefore, the Prophet implemented a conflict resolutions based on the Islamic values. There are five technologies, or there are five measures for the conflict resolutions method in Islam. Actually, by in Islam, actually, then applied by our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, such as participatory resolutions, and then there is unifications. There is also yielding, constitutionalism technology, and also forget to forgive. In order to explain the role of organizations of Islamic countries, I personally would like to use the first measure, which is the participatory resolutions. Okay. The participatory resolutions is actually was used by our Prophet Muhammad SAW during the conflict of laying the stone of Hajar Aswad at that time. This conflict resolutions method uses the concept of a third party, in which the Prophet acts as a third party to mediate the conflict. Prophet at the time the conflict in it, the Prophet Muhammad SAW was chosen as the judge to decide the dispute. Then the Prophet Muhammad SAW put the cloth on the Hajar Aswad stone, then ordered everyone in dispute to hold the end of the cloth, so that they jointly carried out the process of laying the Hajar Aswad to the Kaaba. In the case of Qatar itself, I recommend using this third party that is neutral towards the two parties, where the third party has no personal interest or political content that can be confusing to the problem. The third party, or what at this time is often referred to as a mediator, must be based on the nature of Islam in resolving this conflict. Okay. In these issues, the organizations of Islamic countries have a very big role in order to solving the issues that I have been mentioned before. Based on the organization's charter, namely Article 1, the organizations of Islamic cooperations aims to protect Muslim rights and interest and build solidarity between countries, such has existed ever since September 1969, and prompted by a meeting involving the leaders of the Islamic world after the burning of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Jerusalem, on August 21st in 1969. The historical artifacts signifying Muslim success in capturing the Jerusalem from the army. In the 21st century, however, it was formally given the title called OIC at the 38th annual meeting of foreign minister in Astana, Kazakhstan in June 2011. The Organizations of Islamic Countries is the second largest organizations after the United Nations with a collective populations of 1.8 billion. The uniqueness that keeps these organizations afloat is, of course, since the common goal of protecting Muslims' interests around the world arouse brighter and further. Therefore, the majority that has the most influence in this forum are the OIC member states itself. The criticism expressed have come from the academic suicide that OIC should not focus on between its countries, but moreover, considering that OIC consists of 57 members state that are so heterogeneous, this organization continues to make it Islamic views, the visions and missions on the multilateral cooperations. In this conflict itself, Qatar's conflict with the Gulf states required a third party who can softly resolve this conflict with a fair and also the neutral manner. The involvement of international organizations of Islamic, which in this case the Organization of Islamic Countries is an international organization that can mediate and also that can addressing these issues, this conflict. OIC, of course, has a member from Muslim countries um, that can hold mediation based on the Islamic values. OIC's involvement can be judge or can be a moderator to resolving this conflict. The OIC involvement is very much in accordance with its mandate, which is to accommodate um, Islamic social and also the Islamic economic values, increase solidarity in member states, increase social, economic, cultural, and political cooperations. So we come to the last part of my presentation, which is the conclusions. Um, from the explanation that I have been mentioned before, that I've been explained before, we can conclude that in a conflict that there may be a number of reasons that two parties involved are not able to get out or to get the resolutions, to get the solutions. Um, because they are not rational enough, therefore they need to outside parties. They need a help from the third parties, which is the in this case uh, which is the Organization of Islamic Countries. The presence of outside parties or third parties it is needed to resolve the conflicts, also that the conflicts can be managed and avoided from acts of discriminations, violence, and others. Moreover, the Qatar's conflict with the Gulf states require a third party who can resolve this conflict in a fair and also the neutral manner, um, as well as upholding the value of Islamic values and norms. I think that's all. Thank you for your kind of attentions. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.